some happy news, even though the prices were still falling.
Yeah, it's not good news in the headline. The prices are still down. They're down from a year earlier. They're down from a month earlier. But we have to remember part of this is these are old data in that they came out, these are January home prices, the last time they were reported in January. And the way these work is it's actually a couple of months that we put together to get the January number. So it's really November, December, and January numbers.
And those are tough months because they're the winter months when home prices tend to fall.
They tend to be, I mean, it's the holidays, you don't want to move in the holidays, so it tends to be more depressed around that time. And even some of the contracts that were signed for those were signed in September and October when we were still having some sort of, some of those issues carrying over from the summer. So what we're looking for is the trend, like where are things moving? And even though prices were down, the rate of decline was slower than it's been in the last couple of months. So that sort of gives us a hint, and we have more recent stuff on sales and prices for like existing home sales, new home sales, and those are starting to show somewhat of a stabilization trend.
And there were even some cities that posted increases: Detroit, Phoenix, Denver. So that's positive in that respect. Now, in terms of the inventory going forward, Phil, though, of homes that are out there, of the number of homeowners there, I think 11 million homeowners still owe more than their homes are worth. We got to absorb that somehow.
That's the real question. Is we've seen some stabilization, but prices won't start to rise. I mean, stabilization is great, but it doesn't mean home price increases, which is what people are looking for. And you have to remember, with inflation and prices go up all over, so a home price staying the same is essentially the same thing almost as losing money on an investment if it doesn't go up at all. And we have this huge backlog of inventories. You have a lot of foreclosures on the market. You have what we refer to as shadow inventory, which are the people who want to move out, who are pretty much ready to find a new place, but they're just afraid they're not going to get as much for their house as they think it's worth, or if they need, or that they need to pay off their mortgage. So until we work through all of that, home prices are not really going to start jumping.
We always look at something called consumer confidence, about how people are feeling. Are they optimistic about the future for their jobs, about whether they can sell their house? How are they feeling about gas prices, inflation? Some numbers out. What are we looking at now?
That's another one where it's a bit of a mixed picture. On the one hand, they're up above lows that we've seen in the last couple of months. The present situation index, which is how people feel right now, is pretty high. It increased from more recent levels, but at the same time, they're starting to get a little worried about prices. You see rising gas prices. It's one of those things that it stares you in the face every time you're in your car. You can't help but see rising gas prices, and that weighs on confidence a little.
Is that even if things? And we're going into the summer where people tend to drive more, Phil, and where high gas prices tend to inflict the most pain, even if people tend to feel more optimistic in other areas of their life, with these consumer confidence surveys, will the gas prices tend to bog it down? How heavily does that weigh?
Well, that's the big issue, is we don't know yet how much it's going to, and that depends on how high the prices go. We've seen a lot of research on, if prices get high, but they're at levels we've seen before, people can absorb those because they remember the last time gas was at $4 and $4.50, and they remember what they did. They changed their behavior a little bit. It's frustrating that maybe they skip Starbucks this month and fill up their tank instead, but they know how to deal with it. Real problems start to come when we hit new highs. So we start getting $5 gas, things like that, then we can start being a little bit concerned because people are going to have to cut into things that they need to spend money on elsewhere.